Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mix Tank Live. We are doing a takeover today. My name is Mark Abrams, and I'm happy to be here and see you guys. I've got double audio going. There we go. Professional show. Yeah, so welcome. So if you haven't been here before, Mixtank is a service on Puremix.com where you can go and you can submit your mixes if you're a Puremix Pro member, and other community members will listen to those mixes and provide feedback for you. And it's an amazing place. We, like to call it a think tank for your music or for mixes. Very helpful. So there's stuff of all levels on there, everything from demos to final mixes and masters. And before we get going, I usually like to do a little bit of housekeeping for Puremix. So my pro member friends, if you've been watching, we have a whole bunch of new content on the site. This Friday, we have a very special announcement. Daryl Thorpe mixing the DGs, which is actually the Foo Fighters. So if you want to hear Dave Grohl's best impersonation of Barry Gibb, it's on there, and you got to go check it out. It's amazing. Also, we have the entire first era of the Beatles, the history of the Beatles recording techniques series up available now. So you can go check that out, everything down to the mix. And we're going to be starting era 2 a week from this Friday. So on March 17th, you can log in and you can start watching era 2 of the Beatles series. Coming up after that, we have some exciting stuff planned for March. We have a song from David Bendeth, who is joining us. This will be David's first video on Puremix. That one's going to be amazing. And then a week after that, Michael Brower will be back to answer your questions about his Browerized mixing template. So if you've seen Michael Brower's Browerized video, he goes through his entire multi-bus compression template and explains exactly how he's done it for years. And you can download the template off of that and, apply it to your mixes. And if you still have any questions after you've seen the video, you can submit those. We're going to have a submit link that you'll see in your emails pretty soon. And you can submit your questions for Michael, and then I'll be joining him and asking your questions for you. So I'll be like your avatar with Michael Brower. That'll be a lot of fun. And that's going to be on March 10th. After that, you'll be seeing era 3 of the Beatles recording techniques series, and we'll have some other fun stuff dropping in between there. So very cool. Next week, I'll be back live on Monday, 2:30 p.m. with another episode of The Great Plugin Show. We're going to be taking a look at that new Waves channel strip that just dropped. So tune in for that. That should be fun. And also today we announced a new giveaway with Austrian Audio. We're giving away an OC16 microphone. So you can log in and sign up for that giveaway and see if you get a chance to win. There will be one winner of the microphone, and then 2 people will receive a 1-year Puremix Pro member subscription. So definitely make sure you head over to puremix.com, sign up for those. And let's get to the mixes. So the way that we like to do this is if you have submitted a mix, I try to get to the people that show up into our takeover live stream first. So if you submitted a mix over in the YouTube chat, let me know your username and the name of the song that you submitted the mix under on Mixtank, and we're going to try to get to yours first. So I see a lot of people have already submitted. Celestial Navigation, you said that you put your next single up. You're curious for feedback. Let me know the name of that, and we'll hit it. And let's see who else has one in here. Primetime uploaded one. So I think we'll start with Primetimes, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Good to see you, Primetime. And thank you for that. Thank you for those tips on the keys. Okay, so Primetime. Here we go. Sweet Beast. Nice. Okay. Awesome. So Primetime did a mix of Sweet Beast, which is from a band called Illiterate Light. We have a series on Puremix with Vance Powell doing this session, and it's amazing. So definitely go check that out. You can watch it be recorded from start to finish, and it's great. So I'm going to start listening. Here we go. Hey Karen, good to see you.
My own worst enemy is my head. calculated confidence, stay strong. Sweet beach, on a sweet beach, trying so hard to escape. Alright, baby, alright, can we find another way? Self-defense, yeah, I lost some friends. Yeah, my own worst enemy is my head. Sweet beach, on a sweet beach, trying so hard to escape. Alright, baby, alright, can we find another way?
How insane is that drummer?
Sweet beach, on a sweet beach, trying so hard to escape. Alright, baby, alright, can we find another way?
Man, that sounds great, Primetime. Nice job. Yeah, awesome. So, like I said before, this is a song from a start to finish with Vance Powell. Illiterate Light is the band. They actually just had a new single come out called FLA, but you can spell it out the actual way if you look for it in YouTube. And that song is amazing. Like the new single is great too. So definitely check this band out, Illiterate Light. So over on the right of Mix Tank, you guys can see over here, we've got Primetime's username. He says that his level is noob. I know that it's not. And then track status is early mix. So down below that, we see like Sweet Beast. It's raw mix 001. So probably his first version. And then he's got some comments here. So he says the idea of the mix is bitter and sweet. The mix was just set up so that the idea comes into the picture. It's really a rough idea. Also, the first time I don't watch the Puremix first. If the mix is finished, I'm going to watch the video. So you haven't seen the start to finish yet, which makes this mix that I just heard even more impressive. So Vance Powell, for anybody who doesn't know, is one of like the best tracking engineers ever. And I know everybody says that about everything all the time. It's the best, the best, the best, but he's amazing. And he's like a first call in Nashville, which has a couple recording engineers in it. But everything comes in sounding amazing. And the way that he tracks is full of intention. He lays things down the way that he wants them to sound in the end. And then the mix happens and things are enhanced, but it's, you know, kind of already baked into the multi-track, which is great. But I do know the shape of this multi-track. I was there for that recording and all of that. And I have, you know, the original tracks, as do all pro members, but Primetime, you've done a great job with this. All of that to say, you've done a great job. The snare sound is freaking-tastic, and it's nice and punchy. I love that you preserve the length of the kick drum. When you go back and you watch the video, you're going to see how Vance talks about the note value of the kick and how he wants it to be super long and extended and this big, you know, ringy thing and all that. And instead of, especially very cool that you did this without seeing the video, because instead of like cutting all the great stuff off, trimming out the decay, throwing a gate on there and changing that value and ultimately changing the groove, you really captured the light of the song, which is great. The whole intention of the song. I really don't have that much for this. I thought that was interesting what you did in the beginning. I think you tried out some different arrangement stuff. Very cool. And the main thing that I heard is, the riff before, like for example, it happens before the verse two starts. There's a riff that comes out of the chorus going into that. It's the na 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 vocal. I hear like an upper mid resonant hiss kind of thing. It's like somewhere, I don't know, 2 to 6K in there, just search and destroy, I guess. But in some of that same resonance, it's also on the vocals in the chorus to me, and it's just kind of like a ringing frequency. What I would recommend for that is take a semi-wide bell. If you have something like a Fab Filter, like Pro Q3, anything where you can solo a frequency band, and just kind of scan around in there and listen, and you'll start to hear, man, there's like this one resonance that like doesn't have a note value that's tied to the groove of anything or whatever, and it's just kind of ringing over. I know that those vocals are tracked through a bunch of effects and everything, so they're kind of gnarly coming in, but there's something in there that's like kind of accentuating all that. So I'd say check that out. And man, I wish I had more for you. I was, thinking about like vocal levels and guitar levels in the chorus and everything. Actually, let me listen to the chorus one more time because I had a thought, but I didn't finish it. So let me listen.
I hear sweet beach on a sweet lake, trying so hard to stay. Alright, baby, alright. Can we find another way?
Might be fun to do something to extend the snare length in this section with the guitar solo. Just another thought. Yeah, that would be kind of cool to make that snare like, the same way that the kick has a really long note value. Maybe you could extend that and build some space around it. But that also might just be steering you towards something I might have seen in the video. So, okay, on the chorus. The vocals, I would say like check out your relationship between the vocals and everything. With this being a different version of the mix, right? Like it's kind of cool to hear it in a different way, but the vocals might be a little too on top of everything. I also like the space on it. I still hear some of that resonance thing to check out. And then I would just ask yourself, like when you listen to the song, what's important about it? What is it, the main elements of this band that are super important? It's basically it's two guys, guitar and drums, and the drummer's standing up while he's doing all those fills. It's incredible. He's standing up while he's playing the entire thing. It's awesome. But yeah, like figure out where the main points are, and at different times, if there's like a guitar riff that comes in, that's the star. All of that kind of stuff that we talk about pretty regularly on here. Just make sure you're highlighting like what the most important parts of the song as you're making your balances from section to section. But great job. I think it's wonderful. All right, let's go on here. So I saw a bunch of mixes come in. We are going to go to Studio Jaman. Mike Ornsby is here. It's always a good time when Mike shows up. Here we go. So Studio Jaman. Let's see, I got the right one. Rumble on the Powwow Trail. Awesome. All right. Cool. So let's, he always writes fantastic descriptions with these, so I'm going to read it out loud here in case my screen capture is too rough to read it with. This is a mix combining both recorded powwow singing and a cover of Rumble by Link Ray. Nice. Who's part Shawnee? The distortion, especially on the guitars intended as Link Ray, was the father of both the power chord and distortion. Nice, yes. He was famous for putting screwdrivers through his amp speakers to get his desired distortion, although no amps were harmed in the making of this track. So if you want to know more about Link with the excellent documentary, or watch the excellent documentary called Rumble, Indians Who Rock the World. Hope you dig it. Look forward to any and all feedback. Nice. Mark, it's under 3 minutes and 30 seconds just for you. Just kidding. All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, here we go. That was awesome. Mike, holy crap, dude. Amazing. Technical term, holy crap. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, that was really fun at the start, and then it hit hard when the guitar riff came in. I Man, it's super creative, and I love this. This is art, and it's amazing. Okay, I have a couple comments. They're super freaking small. The drums at the beginning, the whole thing, this entire intro here, it's amazing. Um, Dynamically, if I was doing a master of this, which you might even hate, like if I did this in a mastering situation, I would actually bump up that intro just a hair, maybe a dB or so. And I know that the intention is to hit people hard when the guitar comes in and have that be like a loud, recognizable thing, but it might be just a smidge too dynamic, and that's not something I say very often. So, just a hair. And then on that same note, I would say um, I think it's three, right when we come back into the guitar and in going into the crazy section, when the guitar comes in, that feels just a smidge too loud too, and just a little too dynamic. But then at 3:05, when it plays the second part of the motif or the riff, that felt perfect. So I think he probably did like an automation bump to make it hit hard when it came back in, and it felt like just a little too much to my ear. That could be, completely dependent on where you're listening and all that. But the only reason I say maybe it's too much, I love dynamics like probably more than I should, and it's hard for me to smash things. It's like a something in my body's like, no, don't smash things or whatever. But in this case, I think it's just a little bit. And the reason being, you don't want somebody to grab their volume and turn it down when that riff comes back in because it caused them pain or whatever. If their instinct is to, be like, must protect ear, and they go to turn it down, then it's too dynamic, right? So I had that since my hand almost went for my speakers, but it was over after the first note. So that's such a small thing, and it literally would be fixed in less time than it took for me to say it. So you check it out on different speakers though, and if you love it, leave it alone. Okay, so at 150, I felt like I started hearing some sub bass. There was some rumble starting to happen, and that sub, the energy that's going on in the sub, I would like to hear more of that in the drums. I'd like them to be a little bit bigger and more heft. I saw that there was a comment about the mid range of the drums in the other comments on Mixtank here, and I think that the mid range is pretty awesome on them. Tom's probably got a really good idea about maybe cutting a little 300 to make some space for other stuff, but also I was thinking if it was just more full range, I'd like to hear some more bottom on that thing, so add a little bit of umph down under. So maybe just a little bit more sub in the drums. That's something I would probably do if I was doing a mix of it. But man, it's fantastic, and that's literally all I have. I love the craziness at the end. I love that it's clipping and going crazy. The mix has dynamics up to that point, so it's very clearly an intentional thing. It's not like I was trying to get it loud on Spotify. It's like, no, you wanted it to freak out, and that's awesome. I love it, just like everything that you post up here. Thank you, Mike, for doing this and for showing up and posting stuff. I always look forward to hearing your tracks. So very cool. Awesome. We're going to move on to the next one. And let's see, that's going to be from Ralph Bayer. So I think his track is called Fantasy. Here it is. Okay, here we go. Thanks again, Mike. That was awesome. I might skip forward here. I see a little bit of blank space in the beginning and some at the end. Here we go. Awesome, Ralph. Great job. This is killer. So, a couple things on this. Not very many because I love the track. It it seems a hair quiet, which is fine because we're not worried about mastering stuff. Um, and you have some comments over here on the side that I'm going to read for everybody. Those are, hello everyone. I got some really good advice, really good feedback on the previous mix versions of this song. I took some time to incorporate the tips and ideas to improve. The major changes are kick. I pushed to give some more 65 and some more oomph on the snare. I used a drum sample, and you especially wanted to hear more snare wire sound. Snare reverb. I reduced the reverb a little bit, giving it a more direct signal. You messed around with the vocals, and you were trying to repair some phase cancellation issues with mid-side EQ. So I'm curious about that, and we'll talk about both of those things really quick. So, number one, for the snare buzz thing that you wanted to hear, my thought is there is a plug-in. Let's see if you guys will see this if I pull it up. Yes, you will. Okay, so it is from Wave Factory Snare Buzz, I think is it. This plugin is actually pretty awesome when you find yourself lacking bottom snare, which doesn't happen very often, but if you do, there's this guy. And I think it is free. Yes, it is free. You just give me your email. So no such thing as a free lunch, but it's kind of free. So check that out, though. It's actually very useful. I've been using it a little bit recently and found it to be pretty nice, especially like if you only have a snare top and things are a little bit dark. I don't necessarily think of it as snare buzz. Like when you see it, you're like, really? I want more snare buzz. It actually was kind of giving me some air, which is nice. So check that out. It's a useful one. And then I want to talk about the phase issues thing. So I heard some of the phase issues that were going around. I don't know if that's what you're talking about using during using mid-side EQ for correction, but if so, this is a plugin that everybody should be aware of. It's amazing. And basically, this will take two sources and align their polarity and figure out the delay between them. So, for example, actually this thumbnail for the YouTube video is a perfect description of it. So he's got, a speaker and two microphones at a little bit different of a distance. And if you've ever played with two microphones on a guitar amp, if you go out there with headphones and you have two microphones and you line up the capsules and then you slowly, back one away, you'll start to hear comb filtering and things kind of phasing out. So this will detect the delay in time from two microphones being at a different position, and then it'll line them up together and try to resolve as many phase issues as it can. And it's pretty remarkable the results that you get for it or from it. It's not perfect every time, but it's perfect almost every time, and that's pretty incredible. Actually, in the Foo Fighters video coming out Friday, Daryl Thorpe goes over his entire technique for using this plugin on multi-track drums on Taylor Hawkins' drum set. And yeah, it's he gets some pretty incredible results out of it. So check out Auto Align if you haven't already. Looks like there's a 14-day trial on it. It's pretty great for that kind of stuff. And even between two overheads, you can resolve a lot of phase issues and get more body out of your snare. One of the things that you said was you were trying to get more body from the snare. Sometimes resolving phase issues, every time when you resolve phase issues between the snare and the overheads, you can get a lot more beef out of the snare. It's remarkable how much the overheads have to do with the actual snare drum sound. So that's something to check out. And then other than that, I agree with Tom about the low end on the kick. You bump some of that up and it does feel just a hair thick compared to the rest of the elements in the mix. But like Tom said, it's kind of being nitpicky. And then the only other thing I had was I agree with Tom a little about the putting a bus compressor on there to get some motion out of it. And yeah, shave off some peaks, but mostly just to like kind of dance with the track a little bit. Yeah, for that, just kind of play with your attack and release times on the compressor and make sure it's fitting the groove of the track. And I wouldn't go crazy with it. I just tuck it a little bit and see if it gives you something that adds to the groove or not. I liked what you did with the balances. The lead vocal was a hair behind the snare, but it felt right to me for this genre. And what I mean by that is, if you've seen Mix Tank before, I talk about this a lot. But when I think of balances, I think in 3D. So thinking about the Z plane, the snare is right here, the vocal is just right behind it, and I think it feels really cool for this track. Whereas a pop track, you would have maybe a snare and then your vocal is out here a little bit. So I dug what you were doing with this. And I don't have much else for you. I think it's a great song, great arrangement, and you did a wonderful job. So, yeah, chat room, help me out. If you guys have anything for Ralph, let him know in the chat. But I thought it was great. All right, let's see what we got next here. We have one from Audio Art. And if you guys are in the chat, how we're doing this today is if you've submitted a track on Mixtank, let me know in the YouTube chat. I'm going to get through all of the people who are tuning in live on YouTube first, and then we'll do our random thing after that. If you are here for the first time, this is Mixtank on Puremix.com. Pro members can submit their mixes by going to Puremix.com, clicking Mixtank at the top, and then you will click the button to submit your mix. And then just let me know in the YouTube chat if you've done it, and we'll listen to it. Okay, here we go from the top. This is Audio Art, Feel Your Smile. Over in the comments, he says he's trying to make this Radiohead Bjork style. I'm excited already. And it's supposed to be hypnotic. Are the hi-hat strike variations distracting? Do the strings sit well? How does the cello sound? All right, let's find out. Here we go. I'm listening for where the noise is coming from. Okay, awesome track. Man, very cool. I think that everything that you've done with the arrangement is exactly what you're intending about the hypnotic feel. I love where the vocals are sitting. I'm not really hearing the words in the song, which I don't need to. I got the vibe. If I needed to, then they should be louder, but I don't think I need to. Uh, I think it's great. So there's a couple like mixed things that I want to point out. So one is the noise thing that I was looking for at the end there. I was trying to figure out if it was coming from the drums. Um, I would try to clean that up if you can. It's a little bit distracting to me, especially in the beginning. It's not distracting in like a cool lo-fi way, where it like serves the song and the intention and the texture of it. It's just kind of distracting, and that is because of sort of my next comment, which is that there's a lot of high end detail really in the whole mix. And I don't mean it's, I mean, maybe I mean it's too bright, but it's very detailed, specifically in the drums, but sort of across everything. And it feels very close to me. So that could be compression and all of that. There's also some, it feels like artificial stereo widening happening. And there's some like, I'm picking up phase cancellation, meaning that like things have been stretched too wide and it's just kind of falling apart in the center for me. The low end feels like it's falling apart a little bit, and uh, overall, I could just use more body. So I'm wondering if there is some artificial imaging going on with that. I get why you would do that because you want it to be this immersive, hypnotic, swimmy feel, and I totally understand why you would want to push the boundaries outside of the speakers. But I'm wondering if there's some other ways that you could do it than the current one of like the stereo widening stuff. So I also hear it could be the widening, but there's potentially phase issues in the drums, and it's hard to determine if I'm right about that or if it's coming from the widening stuff. Um, but overall, I would just say that everything feels a little hi-fi for the style that you're going for the Radiohead Bjork thing. That's not that those bands are not and artists are not hi-fi necessarily, but they have a bit of a darker texture to them. Like when I think of those records in my head from either of the artists, I think darker textures and a little bit more distant from me than what I hear in this particular mix. So I'm wondering if you played with that, um, making things feel a little less close, a little bit more like in the distance, like you're trying to reach for it, but you just can't quite grab it. I wonder what would happen there. And I want to point out, Six of One said that this gets added to the must hear again list, and I must agree. Yeah, we've joked around in past broadcasts of this about creating a playlist of all of like the amazing mix tank songs that come in because every week it's just insane how much new amazing music is on here, and this is definitely one of those songs. I all of this is taste and take it for what it's worth, but I would love to hear darker textures on this that just feel a little bit more unreachable to me as the listener. I want to feel like I'm swimming in a hypnotic space, like what you're trying to paint from the description that you put. Like I can't touch it. So in terms of like, do the strings sit well? Is the cello sound too loud? That you asked about in your comments. Um, I I would say everything feels loud and close to me right now. So one thing that might be cool, there's an artist that I love that's in this vein, who nails the texture that I'm talking about. So to give you a reference point, the artist name is Sohn. It's Sohn. Think John with an H, but with an S instead of a J. So Sohn. And three songs I would recommend from that artist. Number one, Signal. Number two, Veto. And number three, MIA. Um, Bjork, Radiohead, that whole style, and those mixes have texture to me. I feel like I want to, especially on Signal, I want to reach into the mix, and it just feels like it's a football field long. There's so much depth in it, and it's like the space is done so beautifully. And I think that what you're doing is right up that line. So I would check those out for reference, if you want to hear what I'm talking about and see if it inspires you or not. I would also like some sub. I think Primetime made that comment as well. Just hear a little bit more low end. Maybe it's a sub bass, whatever, just something to fill up, everything that's happening underneath, like 100 or 80 or whatever. And then I would just have a lot of fun with the effects on the vocal. You can make a lot of things, help to accentuate that hypnotic feel that you're doing. So have fun with it. But amazing song, and I think that you're doing something really, really cool here. So yeah, great job. Please submit another version if you do go back to it. I'd love to hear this again, just because I want to hear it again. So I'll probably listen to it again later. But yeah, it'd be great to see if this progresses and if you do another thing. Cool. Okay. And then I would also say too, like this is just sort of like a kind of a soapbox thing that I say every once in a while on here is. I would attempt to do another mix of this, even if you hate it, even if you end up being like, that was a terrible idea. I liked what I was doing before. I would try it anyway, because that's one of the best ways to kind of learn is like, how do I do two different perspectives on the same song? And I also talk about like practicing as a mixing engineer. That's one really, really fun exercise to do if you're doing a practice session. Take a song that you've already mixed and then see if you can spin it in a completely different vibe and have come out with two different mixes. And the things that you'll learn from doing that will stay with you no matter if you hate the mix or love the mix. So, yeah, try that out. Okay. We had a question in the chat from the amazing Karen Bassett. And she says, speaking of vocal compressor, which one do you put first in the chain? 1176 or LA2A? Chat room, which one do you guys put first in the chain? A lot of times for me, I put an 1176 first because I want to use it for dynamics control, meaning like any really peaky parts and, versus sustained parts and all of that. And then once I kind of take care of like the big peaks with the 1176, I'll use the LA2A or a similar, kind of optical or something really smooth and not as fast as the 1176 to kind of just overall, packaging of the vocal from there. So usually, yeah, I'll deal with peaks first, and then I'll go into an LA2A to get the overall shape of the vocal. But we also had somebody who said LA2A first to get the tone of the vocal, and then they use the whatever's left over. They use the 1176 to grab. So I would say try both, and I might try it the other way because honestly, like out of habit, a lot of times I think 1176. I need fast peak control, hit that, and then I think overall, dynamic shaping LA2A or something similar. I love the ADL 1000. John Paterno turned me onto that thing, and it's like a gem. So ADL is Anthony DeMario Labs. Check it out on Reverb. It's the LA2A feel for a fourth of the price, 1/4 of the price, and it's pretty freaking awesome. If you do look on Reverb for one, there's a sticker on the back that tells you the release time. It's different on every unit, so make sure you look at that and try to decide like what would be a good release time for me. But yeah, I love my ADL 1000. That's like my version of an LA2A that I use all the time. But then, yeah, in plugin world and everything too. So cool. Let's see. Oh, nice. Palisades starts his chain with the vertical VSC2, which I think is fast, yeah? Olaf has an 1167, which might be a typo. But awesome. Let's see. All right, let's check out who else we got in here that I haven't gotten to yet. So we did audio art. Palisades, we're going to hit yours now. So this is going to be, let's see if I can spell it right. Revenge is the name of it. Awesome. Thanks for submitting this. And thanks to Audio Art as well. Thank you very much for submitting that. I hope to hear the next version. Okay, so comments from Palisades are mid-tempo tune with a thumping bass line and an eerie and dark atmospheric vibe. It's in Phrygian. Don't call me Phrygian. Okay, would love feedback on the arrangement as well as the mix if possible. This is a rough sketch of the song idea, and I want the song to be cohesive and also maintain enough focus on the main groove without getting too experimental. You can never be too experimental. All right, let's see what we got. Here we go.
But let's not begin. Look at the moon, I'm out for revenge. In the back of my eyes, in the back of my mind, I'm biding my time, I come up behind. Moving along, but let's not begin. There's nothing wrong, I'm out for revenge. Moving along, but let's not begin. There's nothing wrong, I'm out for revenge. In the back of my mind, I'm biding my time, I come up behind. Moving along, but let's not begin. Moving along, but let's not begin. Moving along, but let's not begin. There's nothing wrong, I'm out for revenge. In the back of my eyes, in the back of my mind, I'm biding my time, I come up behind. In the back of my eyes, in the back of my mind, I'm biding my time, I come up behind.
I really wanted you to punch me in the face one more time at the end there. That's awesome. Very cool, man. So let me just check on a thing here. A little bit of fun technical stuff. There we go. Okay, great. So yeah, Sonic said arrangement feels nice and as a sketch pretty good. Cool. I would agree with that. So yeah, my overall feedback is somewhat arrangement based. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening in here, and I love being experimental all the time. So I like that you asked about, this is a rough sketch on the song idea, and I want the song to be cohesive and also maintain enough focus on the main grooves without getting too experimental. So the groove is the thing that's hurting for me. So I feel like the vocal is an afterthought in this production. It's not in the mix. The mix doesn't tell me that the vocal's important. It's also filtered out and muffled and feeling like you don't really want me to focus on it, which is fine. It's a little bit muffled for me, like it's distractingly muffled, but it's okay that it's not front and center and crystal clear and all that, if that's what you want to do. It also sounds like it might be over de-essed. The groove between the instruments and the vocals feels very distant from each other. It doesn't feel like they were like the groove of the instruments was made to complement the rhyming pattern of the vocal. I'm completely spacing on a word right now. I'm just going to move on because I can't think of it. But it doesn't feel like the cadence. It's not matching the cadence of the vocal. They feel like there's a little bit of a timing or groove rub. And the reason I say that is the groove felt really good in the space before the vocal comes back at 1:30. I was moving and it was like pushing me along and I felt it. And then the vocal came in and my body stopped moving. And I was almost confused about the groove at that point. So I think that there's something going on there that's a little bit of a rub. Now, in the experimental realm, that is also a thing, right? Like giving somebody a pulse and then sort of like messing with their body's like natural instinct to want to keep doing a thing, using that to manipulate in a creative manner is really cool. So if you're doing that, lean into it and see what else you could do with it. It says that this is a rough sketch, so you're still finding your way through it. But yeah, if you want to do that, like go for it. That's cool. That's another thing that you can do. Again, there's literally no rules in this case because you could say like, oh no, the vocal and the groove doesn't match, and you could be like, yeah, I wanted to make you uncomfortable, and be like, oh, mission achieved. Wait, what's that about? Interesting, you know. So yeah, that's one thing that you could do. And the last thing I would say is just overall, like everything is a little bit too loud. It's all very, very compressed and changing the groove of certain instruments. Everything is loud. I don't feel like particular instruments are important at certain times. So I would play around with that. But you get 300 points because I swear I heard the same sound in the beginning of the song there that my phone makes when I get a text message. And it was starting to give me anxiety because it happened a lot. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's blowing my phone up. Right. I didn't actually think it was coming from my phone, but I like had that same anxiety feeling of like somebody blowing up your phone. So yeah, there you go. Which is really cool if that's your intention. Well done. So yeah, great. I hope I get to hear another version of this one too, because I think it's going to be a really cool thing. And I love that you're getting experimental. Lean into it. Okay, awesome. Let's see. Oh, you said I think there might be 2 songs in there. Yeah, that'd be cool. You said in the chat, I also can't tell if I should maintain this mid-tempo 105 or bring it back up to 128 where it was, since the more eccentric bass line has more of a bass house vibe. Interesting. I would play around with it. Perfect. It made you double uncomfortable, but it could be a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Palisades. I definitely don't mean that in a negative way. It's like it's a tool, right? It's another writing mechanic that you can use if that's what you're going for. Yeah, and if you're trying to get those grooves to match up, just listen to where the accents are on the vocal and what beat they're lying on, and then, you know, trying to steer the instrumental around to accentuate that and everything. Yeah, let me know if you have more comments. I'm watching the chat here. Isomatic, what's up? Good to see you. ATN, let's hit your next one here. Okay. Let's see. So ATN, I'm going to search for your song. Palisades, I really hope to hear another one of that. That's really cool. I think like some of the ideas in there are really, really great. And outside of the box and all of that stuff. Okay, ATN, I'm looking for your username. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. ATN, if you could you put your username in the chat? Who said, okay, wait. Simag asks, somebody asked, hey, Mark, do you sing? I do. Not on live streams, unfortunately. But let's see what else we got here. Interesting question, though. ATN, help me out. Put your username in there if you can. Great. Eval, sweet. Thank you. Eval, why am I not finding you? There we go. Okay. Clack B's. Nice. Okay. Version 5. This is a song I recorded last October with my band. The more I listen to it, the more I'm lost in what I should do to improve things. Let me know, ATN. Okay, here we go. I just lost it. There we go.
éclair ou de pluie. La rue semblait aller alors qu'elle s'est pendue. Le bison avait gagné la terre au-dessus de laquelle nous vivions alors suspendus. Le bison ne sait pas s'arrêter de jouer. La bise ou le bison, ou le bise. La bise ou le bison, ou le bise. L'eau dans mon alvéole reclus. Le grand bourdon m'emporte, je suis repus. Derrière nos barrières dans les seins prétendus. Partant de Nice dans ce sont nos liens tendus. Tu dises m'inquiète à nos visages embués. Quand nous envolerons-nous le moment venu? Dans le miel d'être ensemble et sans retenue. Ne craignons plus de croiser le dernier virus. L'envolant de ce vieux monde déchu. Le bison ne sait pas s'arrêter de jouer. La bise ou le bison, le sens-tu? La bise en fait le vent se lève. Se peut-il qu'un cauchemar de vie à nos rêves? Vois-tu le bison auprès de nous se couche? Comme nous retrouvons l'usage de bouche. La bise ou le bison, ou le bise. La bise ou le bison, ou le bise, ou le bise, ou le bise.
Awesome, man. I love it. Very, very cool. The vibe of it is great. Clack B's, not black keys. I like that. I love the fuzz tone that you have going on in the guitar. That really nails the vibe of it, right? Like the germanium fuzz kind of thing. That's nice and broken sounding. It's pretty great. There's a lot of really great stuff going on. Yeah. So the main thing that sticks out to me is I'm a broken record with this, but I hear phase cancellation, and I think it's from artificial stereo widening. I could be wrong there, but if you don't have any artificial stereo widening going on, I would check out the plugin I was talking about a minute ago called Auto Align, and I like this one. There's also Waves in Phase. You could check that out. Both of them kind of go after the same thing. I found this one to be easier, but use whatever works for you. They probably both have demos and all that stuff. Daryl, again, like Daryl talks about this one in the upcoming video, but I've been using this one for years and definitely love it. It's a pretty good solve for that. So, but it sounds to me like it is artificial stereo widening. So check that out. Might just be a little bit too much, but yeah, when you start hearing things exist outside of your furthest pan things and all of that's happening 2 feet outside of the speakers, it's a little bit disorienting for how wide it's kind of smeared across the image there. It also, the main thing about that too, besides like having a phasey feeling, and when I say phasey, I mean a little bit swimmy, right? Like it's a little too wrapped around me, which is, we all want immersive stuff, but that feels a little too wrapped around. The main thing about that is that it steals body from the center power of the mix. And, again, this kind of goes back to thinking about where do the most important elements of the mix live. So first of all, what are they? In a lot of music, in, rock and pop and all of that, it's kick, bass, snare, vocal, right? Like, that's all the dance and all the information that you need in a lot of pop music or vocals centered music or whatever. And then in rock, guitars are next. So when you kind of go super wide, you're stealing away from the phantom center of the image, and it ends up kind of like smearing things out. They get a little bit unfocused. It's like, turning the rack focus and is kind of making things a little bit fuzzy. And all of that to do, to basically make it feel like you're a little bit more immersed and things are super wide and you're inside of it. But you lose the power and the impact and the punch of the sound by doing that too much. So I harp on that a lot, and I was trying to think of different ways to talk about it on here, because I kind of end up feeling like a broken record sometimes with the over stereo widening thing. And I think that a lot of it is just that, you have a phantom center, which is what happens when the information is on the same or is the same on the left and the right speaker. It appears to be in the center, phantom center, and that needs to be like nice and powerful and punchy, especially for translation things. So anyway, enough about that. I agreed with all of Tom's comments from there. Try checking out some of the boomier stuff, and the vocal felt a little bit spitty, a little bit aggressive, and the hi-hat thing, like I actually felt like that could be either the imaging or dealing with some phase issues might end up changing how that hi-hat is cutting across. But yeah, I think that the song's freaking awesome, and you're on the way to a great mix. Very cool. So I hope that helps, and let me know if you have questions. Also, anybody that I reviewed, if you want to reach out, mark@puremix.net, hit me up and we'll talk over email. Sometimes it takes me a couple days to get back, as Primetime knows, but I do answer all the emails. So hit me up, and we can talk more about it if you want to. And thank you for submitting. That's awesome. You're on the way to a really great mix. Just like see what happens if you do a save as, and then like try taking some of the widening stuff off and just doing a little bit more in the center. Okay. Palisades asks, how do you approach layering a lead and rhythm guitar? I've experimented with making one guitar wider in the mix than others to separate them better. So so layering a lead and a rhythm. So typically what I'll look at for that is it depends on how many times the rhythms were stacked or if the lead was stacked even. That's happened. But if I've just got two guitar tracks, I've got a rhythm track and I've got a lead track. So I will not have them pan to the same spot. And a lot of what I'll do is creating a space around the lead guitar. It's got to be right for the song. Like if you're doing, not all Black Keys is this way at all. Some of it's roomy. But if it's like a tight sounding rock thing where there's not a lot of room on it, it's like feels a little bit more direct. You can't really throw the guitar into a giant guitar room because it feels like it's in a different space and it's weird. But I will try to, when I widen the lead guitar, I'll do that by adding reverb and delay, but natural sounding reverbs and delays and stuff like that. I don't typically reach for like a plate, but it's all track based. I mean, I might hear something like that, and depending on the track, it might be like, oh, this should be in an infinite hall or something like that. But I'll try to just texture them differently and use different effects to kind of put them maybe in a little different space. Volume is super important. EQ is super important. If I want the lead guitar to be the center of it, I'm going to focus more on the higher mid-range of it and try to draw it closer to the listener. There's going to be automation moves that let you know that it's the lead guitar and bring it forward. Now, if it's a lead and a rhythm and there's a vocal going as well, I might try to get those to exist on the same plane and just do things that'll complement the part. Like if it's, something like edge, like an arpeggiated high guitar part, I'm not going to throw an infinite reverb on that messes with the groove of the tightness of the notes and all that. And same, I'm not going to spread the rhythm guitar out over the lead. Basically, it just depends on the song and what other tracks you have to deal with. So a hard question to answer, but chat, how do you guys separate a lead and a rhythm guitar? Let's discuss in the comments. Okay. Looking for any other songs that I haven't hit yet. So if you're in the chat and you've submitted a song and I haven't gotten to it yet, please let me know your username and the song in the comments. We're going to go till about 4:15. So we got a little bit longer here to get to some more mixes. So let's see what else we got. I'm scrolling up through the chat looking for any that I might have missed. Let's see. So much good music on here again today. Martin, what's up? Good to see you in the chat. Good to see everybody in the chat. Okay. Let me know at the bottom if I've forgotten anything. Palisade says, gotcha. I suppose that there might be a big benefit to having different color for each of the sounds, e.g. different distortions. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, think textures too. Like a lot of times when I think of distortion, like the germanium fuzz that's like in this song, Tom says, I really like the Fuzz Factory type tone on the distorted guitars. Yeah, like that germanium feel where it breaks up and like that has like a grainy texture to me. It's like broken and grainy and spitty and weird and sandpaper almost, and I think of it like that versus like a Rat distortion. I almost think like, I don't know about smooth because they're like harsh, but I almost think creamy and, like it runs over the notes and all that. It's like more, you could spread it versus like the Fuzz Factory thing is just like this like dried up grainy sand thing. I don't know. I think in textures a lot. So yeah, making them different textures can definitely help that. Johnny A says use different amps, guitars, and mics. Yes, absolutely. Okay. I don't see any others popping up on here. I'm just going to pick one at random here. Let's see what we get when I come out of the search. We'll do the top one. So Safith and Nazir. Here we go.
Your own imagination, your own intelligence, your own intelligence. Immediate response. Once you are given the freedom, your own imagination, your own intelligence, your own intelligence. Your own imagination. We are humans. We should be the ones.
Speak for yourself. I'm not a human. Come on. This is cool. Yeah, we're going to talk about that click ATN for sure. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm going to start before this gets huge again. I think something else is about to happen. Also, it's 7 minutes, so we might move on in a second. But I want to talk about the clicky kick thing. So Palisade says in the chat, clicky kick is kind of a signature techno industrial house thing. Totally is. And I want to go back here real quick. Listen to what having a clicky kick does versus the darker guitars on there. So I want you to listen to depth on here. So where's the clicky kick and where are the guitars sitting? Here we go. So what I'm hearing is the click kick thing makes it very close to me, right? It's like here. And then our guitars, because they're a little bit muddy and dark, are happening back here, and they're not that important. But when they came in, we wanted them to be aggressive and like at the level of that kick. So it's just like, oh, it's like chugging along. It's like a Rammstein feel and like aggressive. But I get the feeling of like instead of that, I have the feeling of low fidelity guitars instead of an exciting, powerful, punchy thing. So I would say on those guitars, potentially clean up a little bit of the low mids or add some presence to them. Interesting trick from Daryl Thorpe, playing around with presence in like the 10K range can sometimes like add some clarity to something where you really want a powerful guitar, but it's just really, really dark. Try playing around with adding some presence up there. Could end up helping out. So, all right, all of that to move on. I love the guitar part that happens in this next section, or in the section that we heard right before the thing we're about to do. This one here. And if you focus on the top end of those guitars versus the muddiness of these guitars, oops, sorry. To me, the top end jangliness of those guitars makes the click in the kick make more sense to me. So, okay, here we go. Basically, to just go on that for one more second. If you have something that's really clicky, that is defining the presence of your mix, right? So now anything that doesn't have a similar presence to that is going to feel farther away or darker or muddier or whatever, word you want to use to describe it. But always look for the relationship. It's how bright should a guitar be? I don't know. What does everything else in the mix sound like? That kind of thing. Okay, here we go. Martin's like, of course he mentioned Rammstein.
Computer is an educational device.
Once you start, you just can't stop. Not a feel.
That was cool. Okay, awesome. This track is 7 minutes long, so I'm going to stop it there so that we can move on to some other things. And I'm playing with lights and all that stuff, so time to move on. Very very cool. So I love what went on in the other sections. Those transition effects are really cool right there. There was one back here. It happened around 2 minutes ish. That was a little bit harsh and just kind of jumped out and ripped off my ear a little bit. But I think a lot of the stuff that's happening here is really cool. I like this kick sound. You had the clicky kick before. There's a whole lot going on. It's like you almost have 5 different mixes to do inside of all of this because of all the different melding that's happening. So great job. Keep it up. I would just take it section by section and just do the contrast thing of listening to other elements in the mix for, who's supposed to be on top, how present should it be, listen for the most present thing, figure it out from there, that kind of thing. So hope it helps. I know, I think it was Palisade said that usually in this genre, the kick has a little bit more sub information on it, which from memory, I would agree. I don't listen to a ton of this kind of music, but that was something that I would have liked to hear was a little bit more, thud in the bottom. I think it's amazing how many different things are going on in here. Okay, and then Martin asked about the clicking kick. Could it be to make sure it can be heard on a smartphone, let's say? Or am I in left field? No, that's definitely something that you could do to make sure that it translates to smaller speakers and all that. I think in this genre, it's a style thing. It's almost like a hard hitting, like I always think of it as like really hard hitting, punchy speakers, just like pounding you from being in a club, like you need something really tight to do a lot of that stuff. So the click is almost to like make you feel punch. To me, I don't know exactly. I don't make this kind of music, but that's my interpretation of it. So great job. There's a lot going on in there. Okay, who have I missed? Let me know in the chat who has submitted a mix, your username, and the name of the song. We're going to hit 1 or 2 more here, and then we will be out of here. So I'm just scrolling up looking for anybody else. Every Single Penny from Paul M.A. Let's get it. So Every Single Penny. Here we go from the top.
Give me your soul, give me all your money, I want it all, every single penny. Just the other day I was selling you things you did not need. Just the other day I was selling to you, appealing to your goddamn greed. I want your soul, I want all your money, I want it all, every single penny. Just the other day I was stealing from you, stealing from your hard-earned pay. Just the other day I was stealing from you, stealing while you looked the other way. Give me your soul, give me all your money, I want it all, every single penny. I could easily tell you what all of this means, but if I was to tell you right now, I'd forever haunt your dreams, and truths remain unseen. I want your soul, want your soul. I want all your money. I want it all. Every single penny. Just the other day you were preoccupied in this false reality. Just the other day you were preoccupied. Now your thoughts, they belong to me. I've got your soul. I've got all your money. I've got it all. Every single penny. Every single penny.
Okay.
Every single penny. I could easily tell you what all of this means, but if I was to tell you right now, I'd forever haunt your.
Okay, cool. A couple comments on it. Paul, this is awesome. I love this song. It's really well crafted, and I think that you do nail the 70s singer-songwriter vibe on it. I think the arrangement's really cool. You're working with scratch vocals at the moment. It says in your comments here, which changes. One of my first comments was that the vocal doesn't feel as present as everybody else, but it's a rough vocal. It's a scratch. So who knows what you'll do with the recording of it, if you do the same microphone or not, or if you've done anything to play around with this. This also says early mix, so I'm not sure if you've actually started working on the mix for this or if this is a rough. It's a damn good rough if it's a rough. But I have a hunch it's not, and I'm going to be a broken record again. I'm hearing a lot of stereo widening on this thing that's pushing things out of phase. And it's interesting on some of the mix things. Like when I hear a lot of that, I start wondering, like, something up with my ears today or whatever, because it's on a lot of tracks. But I think it's just that everybody's kind of doing stereo widening at this point. But I summed down to mono and things disappeared, so I know that it's not me being crazy. But yeah, I don't think, like, for the style, I don't think you need to do that. I don't think that you need to push everything off to the sides. And I don't want to hear things disappear if I'm listening to this in a diner that was made in the 70s and I want to listen to my 70s singer-songwriter vibe song. I'm going to hear it mono, and I'm not going to hear the guitar. Like the lead guitar went away from me at one point. So I would play around with that stuff and see if you really need to spread it out that wide. It just has a really disconnecting feel for me, especially from a song like this, where it's like, what's important? The vocal, the story of the song, especially in a 70s singer-songwriter thing, the vocal's the most important. So I don't need a guitar that's like super wide to distract me or pull my attention away. The same with like the cymbals and overheads and stuff, and the drum image. I want that to be like a nice tight thing that's like sitting behind the singer. If I'm going to see them at like, whatever venue, I see them on a small stage with the band that's like pretty chill, and the singer's the focus, and that's where the spotlight is. So I would just kind of play around with some of that stuff and see if you need it. I spent a lot of the mix, like, thinking about that stuff and like checking the speakers and all that, which is why I went back to listen to a few other things. At the end, the lead guitar part, this could change if you play with the stereo imaging on things. Like, it felt like it was jumping out of the speakers at me, and a little bit loud, but it could also be from the placement of it. But that I was thinking like, oh, that could use a little bit of dynamics control and possibly some automation, or, one or the other or whatever. And then the vocal presence thing, I think that you're going to work on that as you get to a closer like end product, end vocal. And I think that that's going to be great. I think the tones of everything is awesome. I just feel distracted from the stereo widening stuff. And that's a thing that obviously I comment on a lot. So I could be the outlier. But yeah, that's the thing. So cool. I think that this is a great song, and I think that you did a great job, Paul. Thank you for submitting it. Very good band. Yes, Primetime is right. This is a very, very good band. Nice. Great Fox. Good to see you. Very cool. All right. She's just a devil woman. Great Fox. Did you put that in here? Let me look for devil woman. Guys, if I haven't heard your mix yet, feel free to submit one. We're gonna try and get to one or two more here. So, all right. Let's see if anybody else is in. Let me try Great Fox. I'm not sure if you put a mix in, but I want to hear it if you did. I don't see anything from you. Okay, so I don't see anybody else in here. Yeah, man, ATN, he said, God, I love tremolo, or tremolo, or tremolo. How do you guys say it in the chat? Tell me, tremolo, or tremolo, or I don't know how else you would say it. Try to type how you emphasize that word, where you put the emphasis on the syllables. So, or syllables. Oh, yeah, Paul had a good comment. Also feeling some harmonies could help overall. Yeah, I think that's going to be cool. Paul, thank you for submitting that. That was awesome. Great Fox is quoting a song. Very nice. Don't throw your dreams away. Let's see if that's a song in here. Don't throw your dreams away. I don't see that one. Maybe Craig's just telling me not to throw my dreams away. I'm thinking about it, Craig. Nope, that's a song. All right, here we go. I'm going to hit play.
Your body's failing, but you're not broken. Your heart won't let you throw it all away. There is nothing that can take you. I can hear the church bells ring, I can hear the children pray. You see heaven from your window, all I see is a stone wall rising up into the sky. And if that wall should fall, it'll take everybody with it. You just climb that wall and fly. You chase that dream, and you ride that rainbow, and you take the long road, even when it's dark and narrow. And if anybody needs to find you, if anybody needs to find you, that's where you be. Never throw your dreams away. You gotta believe. Never throw your dreams away. You live in black and white, you dream in color. Who's ever gonna cast your shadow? Who's ever gonna shine your light? And the words that you have spoken, all that wisdom, all that courage. I can hear the church bells ringing, I can hear the children pray. You see heaven from your window, all I see is a stone wall rising up into the sky. And if that wall should fall, it'll take everybody with it. But you just climb that wall and fly. You chase that dream, you ride that rainbow, you take the long road, even when it's dark and narrow. If anybody needs to find you, if anybody needs to find you, that's where you be. Never throw your dreams away. You gotta believe. Never throw your dreams away.
chance, but don't you throw your dreams away.
Awesome, Chris. Killer track, man. Great singer too. Is that you singing? You sound great. If so, great band. The ending is freaking epic. Cool strings. They sound real too. Were those tracked? Let me know. And yeah, totally a Goosebump song. Nice. Okay, I'm starting to get the feedback in from how you say tremolo. Tremolo. I've got tremolo, and we've got olo from Primetime. Let's see. Did we get any other ones? Okay, I'm gonna go with tremolo or olo. Which one's your favorite? Okay, Craig. He says, "Not me singing." Back to what's on hand here. Very, very cool song. So, not you singing. Well, the singer's great, and it sounds really great. So now, like, yeah, great song. Here's all the stuff that I thought of while I was listening down. So this is just basically like stream of consciousness as I'm listening down. What are the things I'm thinking of? First off is everything sounds like it was really well recorded for the most part, and played really well. So kudos. That's the most important thing. Now, on the vocal. So I feel like there's a little bit of low mid build up, some resonance, and it feels like a proximity thing, which you guys hear really well on this microphone, sometimes way too much on these live streams. I got to work on that. But yeah, so I hear a little bit of him leaning into the microphone and getting like that low mid kind of resonance stuff happening there. Okay, apparently we're going to look at Aerosmith now. Let me try and go back. I must have hit forward or something. All right, we'll see when it comes back. I got logged out. Team must be working on it. Okay, I'll have to pull that up again. Or maybe we all got logged out. Okay, so I still got my notes here, so I'll comment on those. We'll go full screen for a second. Okay, so little technical thing here. So yeah, low mid build up on the vocal. One thing that I would check out on Puremix, look at the video. It's how to record vocals one mic, and it's Fab DuPont teaching that one, and it's amazing for dealing with these kinds of issues. It talks about like mic placement. Did you track this song, Greg? Because if not, might not be relevant. But okay, you said program strings, BBC orchestra. We'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, just that video is great. Recording vocals, one microphone. It talks about vocal placement, like the microphone placement on the vocal based on the kind of vocal that you're trying to record, what you want to accomplish in the video. And it also points out problems that happen, such as like too much S-ing when the capsule's directly in line with the S's coming out of their mouth, or stuff like what I'm hearing here, where the singer, as they're finishing up a line to hear themselves better in the headphones, they lean into the capsule a little bit because they like the proximity effect and it feels good while you're performing. But Fab shows some tips to like kind of keep the singer at a good distance from it, even when they lean in close like that. So definitely check out that video. It solves a lot of these things. But we're here and you have a vocal, so you got to deal with it. So potentially multi-band compression, dynamic EQ, or automating EQ. As you hear those things, sometimes I will try to do multi-band compression or dynamic EQ first on these things, but you can also go in and you can automate an EQ band for those little spots where you hear those buildups. You can just dip out a band and kind of deal with it that way. I'll also automate bypass on multi-band compression or dynamic EQ and just have it turn on in the spots where it's an issue. But I would do some automation and just deal with some of the low mid buildup that happens as he's finishing up some of those words and it gets a little bit resonant. The vocal is also a little bit pitchy. I noticed it going into the break at 1 minute. Again, like really good singer and great tone. I think he needs a little bit of his assistance on the pitch. So I would, you guys have Melodyne Essential in your Puremix Pro memberships. So I would use Melodyne and just see if you can give him a little bit of pitch correction to kind of keep him in line a little bit. And I don't mean like over pitch correcting it. I just mean like keep it from being distracting. Keep it from being like did he just go a little flat there? I don't, you don't want your fans to think that when they're listening back to it. So deal with that. The kick is super, super loud. The low end is huge and it's taking up a ton of space. It's taking over the vocal. It's saying, I'm the star of the show. I'm the kick drum. And the vocals, the star of our show. So I think the kick needs to come down in volume and the low end needs to be dealt with. Usually when things are kind of like that, not that like there's some crazy, crazy, crazy problem here. I do feel like it's too loud and too big, but it's usually a thing of like you're not hearing the low end right. So check out a couple different sets of speakers, do the car test and all that, and see how the kick vocal balances. And the whole time that you're doing balances, again, just like think, who is the star of the show? Who's driving the song here? Who's pushing the band along? Usually the kick is, but the kick still needs to kind of sit behind the singer. But just think about who's driving the song, all of that stuff. Work on the balances. I thought the snare sounded really nice. It was maybe a little bit boxy, but the kit sounds like it was recorded in a smaller space. It had a little bit of like a low mid-range focus to it. Maybe it could be a touch snappier. I think like if you dealt with the kick, that would probably inform that question. But overall, I thought it was pretty nice. With the side stick, I think verse 2, I would separate that if you're, just maybe chop up the waveform, bring it to a different track in the DAW, give it a little bit more snap, and then you could process it differently too. Maybe you want to put a little tail on that or something. But that's a trick. Greg Wells did that in the Bryce Drew start to finish. If you go to the mixing video for that, you'll see him like he splits off the side stick into something else and completely processes it differently. Gives it a really nice EQ that like makes it nice and punchy. That would not have worked on the full body snare. But yeah, that's a great thing to do with side sticks is, process them like they're a different instrument because it's a very different sound from the full on snare hit. Main guitar riff at 240, I felt like that could come forward a little bit. It's the acoustic guitar line that's playing the main thing. That is the part that's giving me the intention of the groove. So like I started swaying with that part. And then one of the overdubbed acoustics came in that was turned up a little bit louder. And it wasn't the important part, but it was so much louder and a little bit brighter and it was panned off to the side. It was like, hey, I'm over here, look at me. And it distracted me from the main guitar part. So if I was thinking of this as a singer-songwriter thing, somebody said it like had Dave Matthews vibes. If I'm thinking of Dave Matthews singing and playing a song, I want to hear his acoustic guitar and his vocal and everybody else is the dressing right around it. Except for Carter Buford, because, who doesn't put Carter Buford on top of everything? That guy's amazing. But so is everybody in that band. But anyway, yeah. Love him or hate him, that band is very good. Okay, the only other thing I had was at the very end, the really big vocals had a lot of aggressive mid-range in them, and they felt a little bit close to me. I wanted it to feel a little bit more epic, like they were a little bit back behind the lead vocal, but just sounding huge back there. They had like tons of 3D space and all that. I would just check out what's going on with the mid-range with them. And again, like you can't have something feel huge without something feeling a little bit smaller or closer. So if you had like a close lead vocal and then you had some, epic background vocals that are taking up all kinds of space and doing like the massive choir thing, I would just look for more depth in that. String arrangement has a lot of movement. So this is why I asked if it was real players or if it was a sampled orchestra. So the string arrangement, the parts that they're playing, there's a ton of movement in them, but I'm not hearing the individual parts or the notes, but I could hear that they were moving. And I kind of wanted to, as like part of the whole epic thing, I wanted to be able to hear what the orchestra was doing. And I was hearing movement, but not distinct movement, if that makes sense. I think it's just kind of playing around with the mid-range at that point. So I think, first of all, like see if you can find something that's telling you the truth about the low end. Get some headphones and, try it on some different speakers and see if you can kind of check that out and maybe find the right balance of that. Once you get that in check, it's going to tell you how the rest of your mix feels. Because again, it's like if you have super bright cymbals, you're going to turn up the brightness on everything to make it all feel that. Otherwise, everything else will feel dull. Or you turn the brightness of the cymbals down and then you have an even playing field. So in this case, the low end's huge on the kick drum. It's very, very loud. You're probably not hearing the low end, so it doesn't sound that way to you. Just check different speakers, try to get, the big outliers under control first, and then you can work on the detailed stuff like how can I bring out more detail on the arrangement of the string parts. Yeah, I hope that helps. Great song, and I think that you did a wonderful job on it. I'm going to see if I can log back in yet. I think that there might be a login issue with the site at the moment, at least on my end. It doesn't look like it, so I think that we're going to call it a day here. So Carl Gibson, Dark Roses, I saw that in the chat. I love that song. So everybody should go listen to it because I would have put it up here, but I can't get back in. So, Karen Bassett says, Trey, Mo, low. And ATN says, Tle, Mo, low. There we go. Okay. Palisades says, this makes me uncomfortable. Nice. Awesome. I'm glad that I could return the favor there. Awesome. Cool. Thanks. That's great. Awesome. Glad it's helped. Craig, very cool. I have a phase problem in the room where it disappears in the listening spot. Okay, yeah, Craig, let's talk about that for a second. If you have a phase issue with where you're sitting in the room, two things that can help. Know about modes. There's tons of information about this, and I realize it might be like very basic information, so sorry if I'm saying something obvious, but primal or primary axle modes, I think I'm saying that right. They occur at the 50% point in any one direction. So what I mean by that is if your ceiling is 8 feet high, 4 feet down, you're going to have a cancellation. You're going to have the first axle mode of your height. And then same thing front to back in the room and also in the width of the room. At 50%, you have a cancellation. That's why I've said this before. In a lot of American houses, the ceilings are 8 feet tall. And most of us, when we sit in a chair, our ears are hovering right around 4 feet. So we get a lot of cancellation, which is why bedroom producers have a lot of hard times with the low end in a track. And if you ever measure that, it ends up looking like a giant dip at 80 to 100 hertz, which if you've read Tom Foolery's mix feedback, it's usually like, hey, things are a little out of control around 80 to 100 hertz. There's always a canyon there, and it's because of that mode. So you could use some of that information, take your room dimensions, and then play around with your movement in the room. The other way to do it is to play a tone in the room, like a sine wave at a certain frequency. And as you move that frequency, it's going to change, where you hear this in the room. But walk around the room and see where it completely goes away, and then listen to where it's too loud. You can have build up and dips in the room modes and all that. But if you feel like you do have that issue, I would definitely play around with speaker placement and try some of those things. Get the dimensions of the room, play sine waves and walk around the room, listen for the build-ups. And then alternatively, you can do something like Room EQ Wizard. If you Google that, I believe it's a free program. You can measure the room at your listening position and then see if you find some better positions for your speakers. All of that. I hope it helps. That's a very terrible, quick acoustics discussion, but lots of information out there for it. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out, mark@puremix.net. Palisades, if you want to send me uncomfortable things in my email, awesome. That'd be great. Cool. Spectral multiband dynamics. Ooh, that sounds fun. I'm going to Google it. Nice. Okay, guys, I will be back here next Monday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Great Big Plugin Show. I believe we're going to be talking Waves Tube channel. If you guys have something else you want me to check out, put it in the comments below. Shoot me an email, mark@puremix.net. And thank you guys very much for tuning in. It's awesome to see familiar faces on here and amazing music as always. Like it's just amazing every time. And like even the more experimental stuff, like it's so fun and refreshing to hear all of that happening. So guys, I really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you next time. Thanks.